Our chalice lighting reading this morning is from the Chinese poet Lao Tzu, a tribute to the power of our imagination in times of isolation. Without going out the door, you can know the whole universe. Without looking through the window, you can see the ways of heaven. The farther you go, the less you know. Thus the sage knows without traveling, sees without looking, acts without doing.
So starting in September, every month you can sign up to get an activity kit based on the theme of the month. And in August, our theme is resilience. So today we are going to make some slime. You would get in your kit some cornstarch, and we're going to mix it up together. So you would take a little less water than cornstarch. So right now, I have about 1/3 of a cup of cornstarch in my bowl, and I'm adding 1/4 cup of water. We're gonna stir it up, and then we're gonna see what happens. I don't know if you've ever made this kind of slime before, but I love the way that it feels. Very hard in some places and almost like water in other places. But then when you play with it, it doesn't always behave like you expect. So what's that got to do with resilience? Well, resilience means the same thing whether you're talking about people or slime. It means the ability to stretch and bounce back. You know that slime has a really interesting way of bouncing back. All right, let's see if this is good. So, it's a little thicker than water right now. And if I press my hand into it, I think I need a little bit more cornstarch here. It feels thicker than it does if I let it run out of my hand, but not quite as thick as I want it to. So I'm just putting in maybe another tablespoonful of the cornstarch. I'm mixing it up. So if you got the kit, this is something you would be able to do at home in your own kitchen. All right, now it's starting to get that weird slime texture. Oh yeah, so here we go. It is almost like picking up something solid out of the bowl. And then the moment that I raise it up, it starts to drip like water. So, the other thing you can do with cornstarch is see how it's gonna run like that. Yeah. Even though it looks like liquid that way, I can actually punch it. And it's hard, but then it gets soft. So you can't hurt yourself punching it, even though this is a hard bowl. And I don't know if you can see that, it kind of leaves my handprint behind. So slime is an example of something that has the texture that's kind of elastic and can move into all these different shapes. And people are a little bit elastic too. When we're stressed out, we can spring back. We can find ways to be resilient in life. And I hope that you can enjoy an example or two of resilience in your life.
Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea.
That which does not kill us makes us stronger. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. These are the words of Friedrich Nietzsche. I'd like to begin by sharing with you 3 examples of grief as a response to these quotes. The first, when the Universalist Church of America was consolidated with the American Unitarian Association as part of the brand new Unitarian Universalist Association in 1961, there were many unhappy Universalists. Part of that unhappiness came from the ways in which the Unitarians dominated the consolidation, including Dana McLean Greeley's exertion of power and influence as the first UUA president, among other things. But when I've talked in the past to elders who lived through this time and came from the Universalist camp, the sense of loss actually came from a different place. Although Unitarian and Universalist thought had grown more similar on an intellectual level over the years, on the ground, the communities, their ways of relating to each other, and the world was different. Now, I was not there, so I can't really capture the sense, other than sharing that those who shared their feelings with me still expressed this shift, some 60 years later, as a loss in their tone of voice and in their expression of faith. It was both permanent and profound. Second example, when we move, whether in our work or where we live, we experience another kind of loss, a loss of separation. There is something about familiar surroundings that lets us feel safe and capable. Being forced to let go of that safety and replacing it with something different and new is unsettling. Even though we may be very excited about having a new place to live or a new job to fill, and even though we may want this change, it is change that leaves us with a gap in the way that we live. And we have to find a way to fill or accept this as a new whole. There is pain. There is insecurity. There is doubt. The last example I'll share is, as a minister and as a person, I've experienced more than my share of personal loss. Friends, parents, patients, congregants. And what amazes me is that praying over a perfect stranger who has just or who is about to die feels no different than doing it with someone I know well. It is a cavern of emptiness and sorrow that is permanent and unfillable. As I talk with more and more people who have lost loved ones or accompanied those losing loved ones during this current pandemic crisis, and as I help them process loss at a distance, and as I process some of those losses myself, I'm aware that death itself is not changed by our inability to be with our loved ones in this time. It is primarily how we survive that is changed. That which does not kill us makes us stronger. To live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. These quotes from Friedrich Nietzsche are so bleak. I don't want to live in a world that constantly points me toward pain as justification for the beauty and wonder of life. When I hear these words, there is a vague whiff of capitalism that seeps in, saying that I have to somehow pay for my joy with sorrow. But joy and sorrow are not opposites. They do not balance. They're parallel. Neither do they represent a binary. Just ask anyone who has lost a loved one to long-term dementia or cancer or another illness, and they will tell you that despite their desperate desire to not lose this person, their death and removal from pain was both loss and great relief. Too often, the Nietzschean posture leaves us feeling guilty for this inner conflict. We need not feel guilty. Our capacity for grief, our human capacity for grief, carves out a unique space in our lives. As I see it, the one upside to grief is that it gives us range and depth of feeling for our being. Like an opera singer, we must have the high and the low notes in order to sing a wider range of arias. And our aria is life. The lower register, the middle register, and the high are all unique and separate voices within our one voice. And the more we use each, the more we become adept. We become more virtuoso in that range. But virtuosity in the higher range doesn't change the facility with the low range. They are different, even if they are connected, and they deserve and need their separate attention and care. Again, I don't want to live in a world that constantly points me toward pain as a justification and price to pay for the beauty and wonder of life. I want to live in a world where my pain, my loss, my sorrow is real and unto itself and unique and contains its own beauty. I want to live where and how my joy is justified unto itself as well. My grief is part of my beautiful wholeness and my completeness in humanity. That humanity has sorrow and it has joy and triumph, not but. It is not an either or. Our human capacity is vast, and it is woven through with love that is not sentimental or one-sided, but unconditional. I want to live into my human capacity where I know I'm surrounded by love that allows me to grieve fully, whether that is love of other people or love of God. My grief does not pull me out of the covenant of life. Rather, it is an essential part of that covenant. I also want to live in a world where I'm encouraged to cultivate the rich inner love that lets me hold my grief and the grief of others without projecting conditions or expectations, and allows this grief as part of our living world. I don't want to be cheated out of my grief or sidestep the grief of others by being told it needs justification or a light at the end of the tunnel in order to be okay. I want to find ways to be okay in the dark. Being able to bounce back is only one facet of resilience. The capacity to be fully present with the dark and with hitting bottom with our grief is another facet. It has value unto itself, and it is something we are all capable of. Let us not shortchange our humanness. Rather, let us use our shared capacity to provide reassurance to each other as we navigate all the highs, middles, and lows of what we are capable of. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. That may work for some, but I'd rather embrace the fact that we suffer as part of living, and it is our capacity for finding meaning born of the unconditional love expressed as our being in this world that reminds us that we are truly alive. May it be so.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will I know this rose will I know open. My fear will I know burn away. I know my soul will I know its wings. I know its wings. I know this rose will I know this rose I know this rose I know my fear I know my fear I know my soul I know my wings I know its wings I know this rose I know this rose I know this rose I know my fear I know my fear I know my soul I know its wings I know its wings I know this rose I know this rose I know this rose I know my fear I know my fear I know my soul I know my soul I know its wings I know this rose will open